Welcome to London Property Digest, your essential 10-minute audio recap for staying informed on London's property market.
Sounds good to me.
We've got some intel on big changes brewing in the UK,
Yeah.
especially for those non-dom residents we hear about,
Right.
and their
Yeah.
impact on prime property.
Yeah.
Buckle up, listeners.
For sure.
Things are about to get interesting.
You're not kidding. The UK's 2024 budget is like a seismic shift, aiming to draw way more tax revenue from wealthy foreign nationals.
And at the heart of it all seems to be this non-dom status.
Right.
What exactly does that mean for someone who isn't a tax expert?
Okay, so imagine this.
Okay.
You're living in London,
Right.
but your official domicile is, say, Monaco.
I see.
Historically, the non-dom status meant you could shield your overseas assets,
Okay.
like your yacht in Monte Carlo
Fancy.
or your villa in Tuscany,
Ugh.
from UK inheritance tax.
So sweet deal for the super rich, right?
Basically.
If you happen to inherit dad's Tuscan villa. But this new budget seems to be shutting that loophole down.
Hard.
Hard is an understatement.
Okay.
Now, non-doms will face a 40% inheritance tax on all their global assets, not just those in the UK.
Wow.
Think about it.
Okay.
If you inherit a 10 million tailsate, that's a potential £4 million tax bill right there.
Ouch. That's a serious chunk of change.
Absolutely.
And I read that the government expects to raise almost £13 billion over 5 years, just from this one change.
It's a huge revenue generator.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there.
Oh.
There's also a big jump in the stamp duty surcharge on second homes for non-residents.
Okay.
It's going from 3% to 5%.
So that luxury London pied-à-terre just got a whole lot pricier.
Absolutely. For example, that extra 2% on a 10 million second home means an additional £200,000 in stamp duty.
That's like buying a whole other flat. On top of all of that,
Right.
there are even changes to inherited pensions.
Yeah.
So walk us through those.
So beneficiaries could be looking at a combined tax rate of up to 67% on those if the original owner was over 75. Oh, wow.
Estate planning just got a whole lot more complicated and potentially expensive for non-doms.
So it sounds like the government is really going after this group of wealthy foreign nationals.
Yeah, sure.
What are they hoping to achieve with all these changes?
Well, they're trying to move towards a residence-based tax system,
Okay.
claiming it will be internationally competitive.
But the details are still pretty fuzzy, right?
They are, yeah.
What does that actually mean for someone considering moving to London?
Right.
Or maybe more importantly, considering leaving?
Well, some advisors are saying it could be good for attracting certain residents, but it's still unclear if it will be as beneficial as the old non-dom system.
I see.
This uncertainty is a big deal.
So huge changes.
For sure.
Lots of unanswered questions.
Lots.
What does this all mean for the non-doms themselves?
Right.
And how might this shake up the prime London property market?
That's the million-pound question.
Yeah.
That's the million-pound question. Some experts are predicting a potential exodus of non-doms, moving their money and themselves to places like Switzerland or Greece, where the tax situation is more favorable.
Yeah, it's easy to see why they might consider that.
Right.
But on the other hand,
Yeah.
London has a lot more to offer than just favorable tax laws, right?
Absolutely. People choose London for its culture, its energy,
Right.
its global standing.
Yeah.
Those factors might be enough to outweigh the financial downsides for some. Yeah.
So it's not as simple as
Yeah.
higher taxes, everyone leaves.
Yeah.
But how might these changes specifically ripple through London's prime property market?
Well, first off, we could see demand from international buyers in the high-end market cool down even further.
Okay.
London's prime property has already been on a bit of a downswing since around 2014,
Oh, wow.
and these changes could pour some ice water on that.
Fewer billionaires battling it out for those penthouse apartments.
Exactly. It's not just about the number of buyers, though. We
Oh.
might also see non-doms selling off their UK properties altogether,
I see.
or getting creative with ownership structures to duck under that inheritance tax.
So instead of owning that mansion outright,
Right.
maybe they set up a trust
Yeah,
or transfer ownership to family members abroad.
exactly.
Clever. But would that really make a difference on a market-wide level?
Potentially, yes. It's not just about individual buyers.
Right.
It's about the flow of foreign capital into UK real estate.
Okay.
Remember, those high-end properties have always been a magnet for international money.
That's true.
If London starts to look less attractive to global investors, that could have a significant impact.
It makes you wonder, what's the UK government's endgame here?
Right.
They're making these big moves, raising billions in taxes.
Uh-huh.
Where's all that money going?
Their stated goal is to reinvest that money in public services.
Okay,
Things like the National Health Service, education, infrastructure,
got it.
areas that have been crying out for funding.
So the classic Robin Hood scenario, taking
Yeah.
from the rich to give to them,
Mm.
everyone else.
That's the idea, at least on paper.
Right.
Whether that actually translates into noticeable improvements in public services remains to be seen.
It's one thing to announce grand plans,
Exactly.
but delivering them is a whole other ballgame,
Totally.
right? There's always a gap between a politician's promise and what actually happens on the ground.
For sure.
It'll be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Absolutely. And it's a delicate balance they're trying to strike.
Yeah.
They need to generate enough revenue to fulfill those ambitious spending promises, but they also can't scare off too many wealthy residents and investors.
Right.
Otherwise, they risk damaging London's reputation as a global economic powerhouse.
It's a high-stakes game for sure.
It is.
But even with all the talk of a potential exodus,
Yeah.
I keep thinking back to that point we made earlier.
Good.
London is more than just a playground for the super rich.
Right. London's magnetism goes beyond just money.
I see.
It's a cultural hub,
Okay.
a historic city,
Yeah,
a place bursting with energy and opportunity.
I agree.
For many non-doms, that might be enough to offset the financial sting of these tax changes.
So maybe they're willing to pay a bit more to keep their lifestyle in London.
Potentially.
So maybe the government is betting on London's charm to win out in the end.
It's certainly a gamble, and only time will tell if it pays off.
So it sounds like the government is really banking on London's staying power.
Yeah, they're putting a lot of faith in London's unique appeal.
But beyond the impact on buyers and sellers, what are the wider economic implications of all this? The articles mention something about rising borrowing costs for the UK.
That's a key point. The thing is, to fund all these ambitious public spending promises, the government is taking on more debt, and that debt comes with a price tag: interest payments.
So it's like taking out a massive loan to renovate your house.
Yeah, kind of.
Sure, it'll look great once it's done,
Right.
but you've got those monthly payments to think about.
Exactly. And that's what some analysts are worried about. They're concerned that the UK is racking up debt faster than it can realistically pay back, especially with interest rates on the rise.
I see.
And that could have a ripple effect on the whole economy.
So if things don't go according to plan,
Yeah,
if those tax revenues fall short or the economy takes a downturn,
exactly.
the UK could be in a tough spot.
It's a definite possibility. The government is taking a calculated risk, hoping that the benefits of increased public spending will ultimately outweigh the risks of higher debt.
So it's a bit of a gamble.
It is, for sure.
It sounds like there are a lot of moving parts here,
Yeah.
a lot of potential outcomes.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else our listeners should keep an eye on as this situation unfolds?
Well, one thing to watch is how these tax changes impact specific sectors of the London property market.
Okay, like what?
For example, will we see a shift away from luxury residential properties towards commercial real estate or more affordable housing?
So maybe instead of snapping up those multi-million-pound mansions, investors might start pouring money into office buildings or developing new apartment blocks.
Right, potentially for, say, young professionals.
Interesting. Another thing to consider is the long-term impact on London's global competitiveness.
Absolutely. Will these tax changes make the city less attractive to international businesses and talent? Or will London's unique blend of culture, history, and opportunity continue to draw people in, even with a slightly less favorable tax regime?
It's fascinating to think about how all these pieces might fit together. It feels like we're on the brink of a new era for the London property market, with a lot of uncertainty, but also a lot of exciting possibilities.
It's definitely a time of transition, a time for both caution and optimism.
So we need to be aware of the challenges, but also open to the opportunities that may arise.
Exactly.
And that's where London Property Digest comes in.
For sure.
I'll be here to guide you through this changing landscape,
Absolutely.
providing the insights and analysis you need to make informed decisions.
That's what we do.
So if you want to stay ahead of the curve and understand what these tax changes really mean for London's property market, be sure to subscribe to London Property Digest.
You got it.
We'll be your trusted source for all things London property. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time on London Property Digest.
Subscribe to London Property Digest for the latest updates on the London property market.